So Nathaniel is going to be with us today. I'll just give a little short introduction. Nathaniel's going to start off. We're going to have a little introduction from him on stellarium and what's happening with the Teshuva shadow and in the starry night. And when he's finished with that, we're going to switch over to our teaching today. And then Nathaniel will come back in near the end of the teaching and show us some really interesting things that are happening, what we project this year. So Nathaniel, welcome. And sit back and enjoy this stellarium.
Some of you may have seen these types of images before of the star trails, and you're familiar. Maybe, well, many of you have been practicing with your sundials, and you're well acquainted with what we're seeing over the course of the year. But I'm just gonna kind of talk through real quick the highlights of what the sun is actually doing around an equinox event. And if I miss any important points, Charlie, and you just let me know. But there's another video that talks through all this if anyone wants to see it in full detail to make sure they or I didn't miss anything. So so essentially you have an object that you're going to use for your sundial. You have a recording surface. It's nice and flat, and the sun is at different positions at different times of year. And it's gonna hit your object, and it's gonna cast this shadow on your recording surface. And over the course of a day, you're just gonna see your object cast a shadow across your board, like 9 a.m., 10 a.m., 11 a.m., and different times of year you're going to see these different kinds of curves. So this one, you'll see one of these in the summertime. You'll see the straight line around the equinox, and then you'll see this other curve around the wintertime. And a really cool, this is actually, I don't know if this is going to be trouble or not. This is blocking my my tabs up at the top up here. I hate it when that happens.
You just got, Nathaniel, just have to go into those three dots on the right-hand side. Click on the dot, and then partway down it'll say hide floating controls. Just click that.
Oh, hide video. Oh, hide floating controls.
Yeah.
Okay. This other one, do I just say okay? Okay. Okay. So I wanted to just do a quick video. This actually came in yesterday, and I'm sure it's like perfect timing for this, but just really cool visual on what that shadow is doing over the course of the day. This gentleman set up his sundial, so he's got actually, let me show you. I think he's got a picture mount. This is his setup right here. He's got his recording board, and he set up his little sundial, and he mounted a camera to a board that takes a picture every hour of what the shadow is looking like. And he put together this video. Let me see if I can make this thing full screen. There. That takes a picture every hour of what that shadow is doing. So, I mean, that's what you're going to expect to see. You're following the tip of the nail. So he's got a nail, and it's over the course of the day, it's just going to create these patterns. And that's what we're looking at. We're looking at the first point of the day and the last point of the day, and drawing a line between them and comparing where those midday points land. So now, why does this happen? So 3 patterns, 2 curves, straight line up the middle. So this is a picture of a star trail, and you can Google these. You got to be careful. I mean, some of these star trail images that you'll see online are actually real. Some are not. I was just going to show you a quick sample. Like you will typically see like these circle patterns. You will typically only see one circle pattern. Sometimes you will see all 3 of these circle patterns at once. This, though, for example, this vortex thing, this is not something you will see. This is just something somebody made up. So, but typically what you're going to see are these circles. You're going to see these spinning circles of stars. And this picture is a unique picture because I believe it was taken somewhere near the equator. it's only near the equator that you actually get to see all three of these line patterns at once, and I'll show you that in Stellarium. But yeah, what's happening is, for anyone who doesn't know, this is just a slow motion picture that's taken like every 5 minutes. They take a picture of the night sky as the stars are progressing across the sky, and it just ends up making these star trail pictures. So you can see the paths of heaven, and this line up the middle is the celestial equator. So essentially, you have you have what appears to be what appears from the ground to be some kind of a circle spinning on one side of the equator of stars, and then as you look on the other side of the equator, you'll see another circle spinning of the stars, and right up the middle is the celestial equator. And if you're curious where the celestial equator is, that is like right around the top star of Orion's belt. So I can show you that in Stellarium too. But as you look at the night sky and you find the constellation of Orion, if you watch it like every hour, you'll see Orion's coasting across the sky overnight, similar to how the sun does. And if you watch his top belt, the top star in his belt, that is pretty much the closest star I've been able to identify to the celestial equator. It's not exact, but it's very close. So that'll, if you want to get an idea of where the sun is going to be on an equinox event, that's a good way to kind of test that. But essentially, what happens is the sun is it's jumping these tracks over the course of the year. And let me see if I got another image here. So again, these are the three patterns that you're going to see over the course of a year, and you'll be making your marks. That's what these X's are. You just got a sundial, and it's creating these marks, and slowly but surely, this arc pattern is going to start straightening out and getting closer to the straight line. And then the unique thing, and we'll look at this in Stellarium, but what seems to happen is the sun stops on the celestial equator, and it actually rides the celestial equator for a day. It's a very unique thing that happens that I'm not sure it doesn't appear modern science and program software like Stellarium have this quite right, and we can actually take a close and look at that. But you see, these modern science and these softwares, they say that the sun, as it moves close to the celestial equator, it's going to cross the celestial equator in just one moment of time. So like there's this mystical equinox moment that they talk about, because they're saying, okay, yeah, it's following this track, and then when it gets close to the equator, it's just going to kind of jump right over the celestial equator and continue down this track. But the thing is, we've been collecting sundial data for years now, and I have only, in many years, well, I mean, I guess it's been like 5 or 6 years, but I mean, many people have been, it's not just the 5 or 6 years, but it's seeing many, many people collecting data, and I have only ever seen these three patterns. The straight line, the curve, and this lower curve down here. The thing is, just to keep in mind as we start to look at some of this, is what NASA and modern science will tell you is that the sun will cross the celestial equator in just a moment, and it'll jump on to this other track here. But that would mean that the sun is traveling down this path here, and you're going to see this curve like this. And then once it finally gets to the celestial equator, it jumps to this curve, and you see it make this opposite curve. So you end up with this S shape. And in all these years and everyone collecting data, I have never seen anyone get an S. So it seems that the sun is actually doing something very unique that I don't think that modern science is even has figured out yet. We'll look at something that's kind of interesting though, but they've got it happening in a moment of time, whereas what actually seems to be happening in reality is the sun gets close, it gets close, it gets close, but once it hits the celestial equator, it rides the celestial equator for close to 24 hours. Like it allows everyone on Earth the opportunity to see the sun traveling along the celestial equator, and then it jumps onto make this other pattern. And so that's just a very interesting thing. Yeah, and so this is very important for all calendars. They're all, I mean, all semi or what have you, Torah awakened type calendars, not the Gregorian calendar, but they're all looking for the spring. So this is important. Okay, so now we're gonna look at what's happening in Stellarium here, and I did have this set up and right before the program, and Stellarium shut itself down, so I lost everything. So I'm just gonna walk through it. I'm gonna show you from the beginning in case you want to ever do Stellarium. You'll know how to do it. So you kind of hover over the bottom, and you have some options you can turn off here. I am going to turn off the atmosphere so we can see the stars. And I'm going to turn on the equatorial grid lines. Okay, you got two different kinds of grid lines. You got these green ones, but I don't really do anything with them. But these equatorial ones are important because they show us the celestial equator. So the celestial equator is this line with the 0 coordinate. That's the middle line of heaven. And if I can, I guess I'll show you real quick. We'll find Orion. Orion's in there somewhere. I'd like to show you that Orion. Just you can see that it follows. Where would Orion be this time of year? Yeah. Okay. Well, anyway, maybe I'll find it. But let me. Last time I did this, Orion was just floating there in the sky. Let me actually pull up the names. Okay, let me see all that. But look for the one that looks like the hunter. Where are you? Ah, there he is. Okay, so look at how the top star of his belt is right next to this 0 coordinate. So again, as you just watch through the night sky, his belt pretty much follows and traces that celestial equator line. So if you want to know approximately where that middle line of heaven is, that's a good way to do it. Okay, so now let's pick a location. So, and let's put some dates up here. So you go to the side window, you can turn on these dates, and this is very helpful for just jumping around to the date of interest. But I think I want to pick a location. So you click on this and it's got there. I'm going to pick this location. And you can plug in exact cities. Actually, is that the country, region, city? Oh, I actually wanted to pick Quinto. What's the name of that city that's right on the equator? I wanted to pick a city right near the equator. I know it begins with a Q. Wow, a lot of cities that begin with P. Okay, well, and again, I'm sorry, some of this isn't the most straightforward. Quinto, QRS. All right, it doesn't need to be exact. I think you'll be able to see what's important to see. So I'm going to try and pick a spot that's relatively close to the equator, but right around here because there's something else interesting happening this year in this location. So we're kind of, just for reference, on a longitude that splits Australia, and I'm trying to be somewhat close to the equator here. I think that's too high.
Nathaniel, if I can just interject, Malaysia is very close to the equator. They're around the tip of India, over there by Thailand and Malaysia. That is close to the equator, very close. Yes.
Okay.
If you wanted to do that. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, this should be close enough. You'll see what I'm saying here because and I might not have mentioned it, but those star trails that I was showing you, like you'll only see this one near the equator where you see all three of these patterns at once. Pretty much everywhere else you're going to see just the single circle. That's all you can see for most of these. Some of them you can. I can see a couple of them here, but most of them are just going to be the one circle. And I'll do a quick demonstration of that. But so we are somewhere around central Australia. So I'm going to get rid of these guys. And now let us look for the sun. There's the sun. So these are the dates here. So what we're looking for here, what are we looking for? All right. So I want to show you those three patterns that we were talking about. So we're looking south here, and the sun's here. And remember, this grid line 0 is important. In fact, I'm going to put it approximately to when the sun is crossing that grid line 0 for reference, because I think the grid lines might get hard to look at when we're zooming way out. But let's now, things get a little funky in stellarium like this. You can see it's like doing funky things to this horizon. It's supposed to be flat, but as you look up in the sky, it's just a crazy thing that this software does. But as you look up in the sky and you pull this down right about there, can you see those three patterns? You can see the 0 coordinate grid line is pretty much straight, and the above it and below it are these opposite facing curves. So that is those are the same curves that we're seeing in these types of star trail pictures. It's not just so people have confirmed it taking pictures like this, but it's also somehow it's making it is actually showing up in this stellarium software as well. But when I zoom out now, things are going to get really, yeah, I'm going to show you this first. Okay, well, no, okay, I will show you. I'm going to make the ground disappear for a moment. Ground. So you can see those two disks kind of in all their glory. So there is the one disk up here that is pretty much, it's got like the North Star at the middle of it, and it spins up here. And then down here is like the southern disk of stars. It's got like the Southern Cross, something like that near the center of it. But these are the two wheels that spin that you see in the star trails. And I'm just going to speed this up so you can kind of watch it happen. And things are going to look really weird as they start to shoot out to the right and left here. But here in the middle, just focus and see how it's just simply spinning around this point and it's spinning around this point. So let me speed that up. So you can see these are the two wheels. Don't ask me how or why, but this is what we apparently see from the ground looking up in the sky are these two different wheels. So now putting the ground back again. Which one's the ground? So again, this is all the sky that you would see from that location that I picked. That was somewhat near the the earthly equator. It was somewhere near the equator. So you can see both of these patterns. You can see both of these curves. But we must not be quite exactly on the equator. We can't see the southern one, but we can still see some of these curves. So you can see this one up here. So now I'm going to try and pause that. And I'm just going to show you for perspective what happens when we do jump north. So you just see what we're talking about. You only see the one pattern when you're up high. So we'll just jump up here. And we'll look again real quick. So again, the same thing. And this is going to start to look different. But as I pull this out, we can really only see the one circle now. So let me speed this up. So you can't really hardly tell what's going on down here. We can see this, but we can't see the other circle because we're too far north. So the same thing would, I guess, would apply to the south. So I guess I'm just going to show one more thing because I know somebody's wondering this. Let me see if I can get my bearings here, and let's just actually look at a more normal view of things. So when does that sun cross that celestial equator, and how does this program have it set up to do that? I actually don't pay too much. I haven't paid too much attention to these program softwares and where they're saying these things are actually happening. I mean, I've been trying to prove things out with the sundial, and now that we're starting to get a good feel of what's actually happening in reality, I mean, I guess I've just lately been taking a look to see what modern science is projecting for these things and kind of putting two and two together and seeing what they may have right and what they don't have right. And we'll about some of this later in the video, but I just want to show you how this software uh, it just has the sun jump right over that celestial equator. So let's get it close. It's not I why I'm curious. So the coordinate to watch when you're doing this, as I'm far away, again we're approaching to this grid line 0. Um, the coordinate to watch is these sets of angles right here, particularly this one. You're looking for this -4 degrees to turn into 0, and that's when you're going to be on that celestial equator. So you'll see it getting less and less. It's 3 now, it's 2 now, it's 1 now, it's less than 1. We're getting really close. Boom. No, we're almost there. Did it switch over? Was it negative and it went positive? Yeah, it was negative and it went positive. So right there, somewhere between the 19th and the 20th is what it is saying for the moment that it crosses the celestial equator. And you can actually, oh, I know why it's doing this. Find that exact moment when the sun crosses over. I don't know if I don't know if it's worth spending all the time to do that, but it if I play it real fast and you watch this, I mean you'll see it doesn't spend any amount of time on the celestial equator. It just 1 second it's on and the next second it's above. So let me see. Let me just go back one day. So there it is on the 19th. We're below -20, so I'm just going to speed this up. And again, you watch this coordinate going to 0 here. Something's going on. We're not at 0 yet. We're not at 0 yet. We're getting close. We're getting close. We're getting close. Right. Almost. We're almost there. That's why. Okay, we're going to go a little more. Watching this go to 0. And they just calculate this as a smooth running number. It's convenient to do that. But it seems the sundials are telling us something else, that it actually it hits this position, this celestial equator, and it holds this position. Oh, I hit the wrong button. Okay. Well, I don't know if you saw it. I don't know what just happened there. Oh, I hit don't hit this button. This one with the double triangle stacked on top of each other, it just reset me to today's date. So it just totally messed me up. But anyway, yeah, that's what the program software is programmed to do. But those are the 3 paths of heaven. We've got the celestial equator, and the sun is simply just it's bouncing between the celestial equator and at different times of year. That's why we have the seasons. The sun is just going north and it's going south, and that's the solar cycle of the sun, or what it appears to be. And those grid lines disappeared on me. You can get lost with this software, but I mean it it can, like I said, I mean I've gone along pretty well without it. But it's interesting to, after all these years, to take another look at it to see what's going on.
And this is Tequfah Lessons, March 2024. And what is happening with tracking the straight line shadow? This is part 2. We're carrying what we did last week. So if you haven't seen last week's teaching, that would be a good thing to look at. But anyway, Tequfah's next lesson in part 2. Well, in part 1, the research gave us clues through many different patterns found in the world map pictures for the Teshuva event between the years 2019 to 2030. Remember, we looked at all of those different maps. There was 12 of them. The Tequfah shadow markers are found in about 16 time zones of the world where we actually have members. Here's these time zones, um, quite a few members here in North America. But we also have covenant calendar members in these time zones here at the bottom, a few scattered everywhere. And it's just enough to be able to cover quite a few time zones in the world. And everybody is invited to participate as we seek for Yahuwah's international date line. This line over here in the middle of the Pacific Ocean that has a zigzag, this is man's international date line. So on one side of that line, you're on one date. On the other side, you're on a different date. That's just the way it works. But Yahuwah has a date line as well. So we're going to be looking at some things about that and shadow markings. Now we understand why the Teshuva straight line shadow sign is far more important than any equinox moment information that comes from NASA. This shadow sign determines the last cycle of the old year for each time zone, no matter what Gregorian date NASA has declared that the Teshuva sign is going to happen. And they use the word equinox. Okay, so that is very important to know. But we have a question here. Will the Hebrew definitions confirm this understanding? So I'm just going to bring in Tim for 3 slides, just 3 slides, but it's really interesting information to tie in with what we just saw on the stellarium and what's coming at the end of this presentation. Okay, Tim?
Thank you, Charlene. This is a wee little tiny minuscule glimpse into what's coming down the chute in the future. This is a look at the Uf Vav root. And this root is absolutely incredible when you examine the different applications in the scripture. If you look on the left-hand side in the pink square, you will see the Kuf and the Vav right there. That's the letters that I'm talking about. Let's look at the definitions. So you see the blue line underlines there? To stretch out as a line. Yes, this is Old English. It's from an ancient 1776 lexicon. So that word is stretch. To stretch out as a line. Send forwards in a straight direction. Note these words. These are vital, very, very important. And he references Genesis 1:9, Jeremiah 3:17, and more definitions: to wait, to look for, and other places other definitions have anticipation, to look for, in expectation. Then the next underline, it has a line, simple as that. Now it gets important. It gets very interesting. There's the Kuf Vav root. But look at that full letter, or the full word in Hebrew. Tav Kuf Vav He. Tequfah. Tequfah. Does that sound really close to Tequfah? Well, we're going to be looking at this a little bit deeper. Well, a whole lot deeper in time. Let's go to on the right. It has the Mem Kuf Vav He. That has the mem in front of the Kuf Vav. It's a thread. A thread, it's linen yarn. Linen is for healing. That might be interesting. This is the Kuf Vav root, and it provides a very peculiar definition. A straight line stretched out. And this is just a glimpse, as I say. There's many more definitions coming in the future. But I want you to note this straight line. This is extremely, extremely important to understand. Now, this will be a little bit hard to see. In that pink square, you will see the word Tequfah. It has that Kuf Vav in the middle. And the difference between Tequa and Tequfah is it has a pay in it. What's the pay do? Well, the pay is a mouth. So this will be a straight line that speaks. It has a message. But look at the definition or how it has been translated to us in English. Mighty. So I'm going to read the verse on the right. It might be hard for you, but I'm just going to read it. It down one, Charlene. 40. I can't see the number there. Yeah, 40. The fourth kingdom shall be mighty as iron, for as much as iron pulverizing and overcoming everything. So like iron that smashes, it shall pulverize and smash all these. This is pretty interesting. This is a description through the word Tequfah. So this is a nation, and a nation has a circuit in that which it does. It has a process. It moves along, and it moves along with an incredible power, pulverizing, overcoming. I want you to note this power, force, and authority of the Tequfah, this straight line, as marked in that box. Read what it does in the text. It just brings us to more understanding of why the shadow sign by which the Tequfah circuit is determined is so incredibly important. Massive amount of importance on that shadow. Just when you look at Hezekiah and the sundial incident, what Hezekiah did, he asked for that shadow of the stretched line in the Tequfah to move back 10 degrees. So here we are looking at a description of how Yahusha formed the atmosphere. This is directly referencing creation in Genesis 1. This is from J. Parkhurst. That's 1762. This Hebrew lexicon came from. And it's the same kuf, or tav, kuf, hey. The same letters with the addition of a vav. Tequf. Tequf is what it says. I'm going to read this word here, or the definitions: to overpower, overbear, overcome. And if we go down to the Hifil definitions, to have overpowering strength, to be strong and mighty. Power and authority, once again. This shows us exactly the definitions of this word, the strength and power in these letters. It's absolutely phenomenal, and we need to pay attention to this. This is what forms, or this is what the shadow comes out of. It is the power that gives authorization to this shadow, mighty in power. And if you look on the right, on the bottom there, you'll see the big box Tequfah. That's the letters that we are referencing. Tav, Kuf, Vav, Tav, Kuf, Yod, Pe, He. Very, very powerful, strong, and mighty. Please remember that moving forward. This is the situation, or the unit that Yahuwah has established at creation to be the time clock, the stopwatch, if you will, of this earth. For 7,000 years, this is going to be in absolute control. The strong and the mighty. The constellations. Stellar luminaries, I guess, is a good word to describe them.
Mm-hmm. Okay, all right. Thank you so much, Tim. As we're going to go in to the rest of this study, and is it possible to see a straight line stretched out in the heavens? Well, if you were watching the stellarium, you already saw some of that. So we're just going to do a little bit of a review here on these fun facts of the celestial equator. That beautiful white line in the heavens, right there, it demonstrates the celestial equator. And as Nathaniel already mentioned, this picture was taken around the equator somewhere using slow motion photography, and it shows where the sun would track the celestial equator for about 24 to 48 hours on the day of the Teshuva in March and September. Okay, so I do have 24 hours here, but we're going to challenge that at the end of the presentation with Nathaniel, so keep that in mind. And as you can see, there's some pink arrows and blue arrows there. Just observe the curve on the right side running clockwise. Okay, I'm going to say it's going this way around here with the blue arrow. And on the other side of the celestial equator, you have your arrow going downwards, running counterclockwise. Oh, actually, maybe I think I've got those mixed up, right? No, I've got these mixed up. So you see, it pays to look twice. Anyway, one goes one direction, one goes the other direction. And slow photography can reveal those wonders. Now, this celestial equator is a sign. It's a sign found in the night sky. But you would have to have slow photography to see this, okay? Or, you'd have to have a really good eye with a telescope to know what you're looking for. So that's what's happening in the night sky. Even though it's daytime where you might be at, this is going on in the night sky somewhere. We mark the straight line sign on the ground during the day as the sun is traveling on that celestial equator for a full cycle. So there's a sign in the sky, but we're going to mark it when we see it on the ground in the form of a straight line shadow. So that sun's straight line shadow path, here's the good part, is visible to the whole world in the time frame of about 24 to 48 hours. The whole world, 24 to 36 perhaps, because you wouldn't see the shadow at night. So let's take another look here. Is the curve a smile or is it a rainbow? What do you think? The curve that you're going to mark, is it like a smile or a rainbow? Well, you know what? It depends if you are north or south of the equator, and it depends on the season of the year. 6 months of the year, the shadow curve will look like a smile if you're marking, and the other 6 months, the curve will flip to rainbow curve. So this here, red line, okay, on this demonstration here, it kind of looks like a rainbow curve, all right? If you keep marking, you will come to a Teshuva event where twice a year it'll be a straight line. And wherever your location is, if you keep marking, your curve is going to turn into like a smile, okay? But it depends on which side of the equator you're on, which one you get first. And it's fun to watch that curve flip between those two shadow events as shown in the picture. And on this blue picture here that has been given to us, you can see how the curve is getting tighter and really tight there in the center. But as we get closer to the Teshuva shadow event, it starts to straighten out. And then if you would have another marking the next day, you would see that that curve goes the other direction. So that's what we're looking for, to see what's happening with that shadow. Another picture here to just demonstrate as the sun moves across the sky. Here's the gnomon, the marker, and the sun here casts a shadow this way. And then at noon, high noon is a good time to mark. It casts it here, and on the afternoon, it will cast the shadow this direction. And if you mark these points, you draw your line, it will be straight 2 days of the year. Well, we believe this world project for tracking the shadow sign may be a very special key of knowledge for covenant calendar. For covenant calendar people, they're now understanding that this is a very important key in our hands. Well, what happened last year was that we already talked about that last week, is that we had 2 calendars that we had to put out because this straight line shadow separated us between 2 dates on the Gregorian calendar. So we put out a calendar for those that were in time zones -6 to -11 or -12, okay? And we had to put out another one for those that were in time zones -5 to +12. They were different dates. And as you can see here, 19th and 20th here for the end date, and then the first day of the year on these time zones, -6 to -11. That's basically from Arkansas, Mississippi Basin in the United States, all the way to the international date line, was the 19th for the shadow sign. But over here, it was the 20th for the shadow sign. So in 2023, we realized that there needed to be at least 2 covenant calendar options for members around the world, as there were different Gregorian festival dates between the 24 time zones. And that was a key. That was a key that was given to us to wake us up that there was something going on, and we really appreciate the work of Nathaniel in recognizing something there. Okay, so what's going to happen this year? That's what we're wondering. We're going to give you a projection of what we think is going to happen this March in just a few days. Now, anyone can track the sun's shadow. It's not that hard. A gnomon, when you hear that word gnomon, it's just your marking stick, whatever it is, a nail, a stick, a pin, whatever you've chosen. In this picture, it looks like a pole and a stick. And I just got the question yesterday. I don't know how to mark the shadow. I don't know what I'm supposed to do, like there's shadows all over the place here. Well, this stick is a little bit not quite true to form. It might be this way at the equator, but this stick is making a shadow, and at the end of that shadow, right there, that is where you mark, okay? You've got a shadow from here to there. At the very end, that is where you would put your marker, whether it's a flag or whatever you're doing, however you're marking on the ground. On this picture here with the grass, you can see the shadow here is right there. Who's ever been doing this has been putting sticks in all day long, okay? And the last one here, right there at the end of that shadow, that's where you mark it. If you're marking on a board with a pen, you want to have a very fine tipped pen. And as we work together, we found out that we learn from each other. It's always fun to do teamwork. Well, Nathaniel, he also goes by Faithchild. He's from Western Virginia. He's going to be working together with us again on this March 2024 project. And he's going to add in data from his own personal context as well. We're all going to get together and combine it. But his support will show us how easy this is, how much fun it is, and how important it's going to be. So it's not a hard project, and it is lots of fun. We're probably going to have a map like this up on Facebook and whatnot, where we'll post what's happening. But just to show you what happened last year, if you didn't see last week's presentation, for March 2023, for the March Teshuva shadow sighting, we didn't have a lot of people to go on for this data, but we had enough to figure out what had happened. The data that came in that was reliable, there was 5 points of data from March the 19th. And then these points here, these blue ones here in North America, very good data from South Africa, some pretty good data from Australia, had a different date. March the 20th was when they saw the date. So it was pretty easy to spot, the color. Oh, there's yellow, there's blue. Right there, somewhere in this area, was where Yahuwah's international date line split the world dates around this placement in March 2023. So the question is, where will his international date line place in March 2024? So your data on the world map is really important. Everybody is really important this time. So I just wanted to show you that of what is coming. And to watch Facebook, Nathaniel will be posting and keeping this updated to get your data in just as soon as possible. Don't wait 2 or 3 days. So next, it's time for a 2023 World Tour of Shadow Markers. We had quite a few from last year when we understood how important this was. We decided maybe we better start marking and get ready for the straight line shadow in September and get some practice in. So for our new markers this year, let's take time to see what Covenant Calendar members did last year for practice. Because if you didn't mark last year or you don't really know what to do, this little presentation might really help you a lot to know how you're going to mark this month, to get your board out and to mark. So we learn from each other. And we want to count this as a fun experiment and also a way to witness, because when people see you doing this, you go, what are you doing? And you have a perfect divine opportunity to share with them what is going on. And you'll find out that people are really interested. So the shadow marking project from 2023. We're going to just back up a little bit with some data that we didn't have on time for our program last year. But on March the 20th in Australia, This was submitted by either Alan or Damien. I'm not sure which one. But anyway, you can see he's got his gnomon here, right? And he's using stick pins. See right there, right at the edge of that tip of that nail, he's put his pin. That's where the shadow is. That's where he's going to mark it. And this isn't very much. This isn't a very big board, okay? It's not too big. So he's been marking the shadow all the way along with these pins, okay? So after he's got that done, he's going to lay down his straight ruler and see if he's got a line or pull a thread. We're going to look at that too. This other marking here is from South Africa. It was done on April 17th. They heard our program around Teshuva last year, and they decided they are going to mark, okay? And this was their first time, and they sent it to us, and look at that, Vanderness. They actually were having some fun setting this up, trying to figure out what's going on. So just to show you that it doesn't matter if you get it right or get it wrong the first couple of times, at least you're getting some practice and you're going to figure out what to do. Now, this particular data came from, I think the gentleman's name is Cody in Oklahoma, in this area of Oklahoma over here. And he verified that he had the straight line. You can see that he's got a pretty big pound weight there. He's got a straight line, and it was March the 19th. Now, if you remember, we did say that Arkansas had submitted first. They were the first ones to submit March the 19th. I didn't get this picture until May the 30th, as you can see. So he was a little late getting it to us, but anyway, it would have been nice to have that sooner. But guess what? It was a confirmation that with the others that we had seen on this side of North America that all had March the 19th, it was a confirmation. So that gave us 5 solid verifications for the straight line shadow on March the 19th from Arkansas, Oklahoma, Montana, and Alberta. So we were really quite confident that March the 19th was the last day of the old year for that part of the United States and Canada. Okay, I think I'll start here on the right side. Here's some marking. Just practice. People are practicing. They're doing anything they can. This is from California on May the 10th. This person here has a paint bucket with a stick in it, and he was just marking, the shadow where those black washers are, putting down 11, 12, 1, 2, 3 o'clock with tape. I guess it was masking tape or something. But look at that beautiful curve, okay, on May the 10th. Just such a beautiful curve. That's what you're going to find. March the 23rd, is another submission. A little bit different setup now with, gnomon here. And you can see this beautiful curve coming out. Just practicing, having fun, tracking that shadow and looking for that beautiful curve. We were really happy to have all kinds of shadow marking. This is one of mine. This was my Mother's Day treat. I do want to tell you that I didn't mark the shadow like I was supposed to. I was too busy. I had an excuse. I was too busy, but guess what? There's no excuses anymore. So on Mother's Day, March the 14th last year, this was my treat. I was going to mark the shadow. And I just went out on the dirt. I had some of these twisty ties. And when my shadow came, I just pounded a nail into the ground, put a twisty tie with a note so I wouldn't lose it in the wind. And at the end of the day, I saw this beautiful curve. That was one. I did another one. I was just using the corner of a fence post, okay, where a fence post was coming right there. And you can see it here in the shadow where that line was. That's where I was, that little point right there, that's where I was marking. And I just picked up dandelions. I just put dandelions wherever that was. And I just marked it. And every time I went out, every hour, those dandelions were dead and I had to pick new ones. But at the end of the day, my mark was about 12 or 15 feet long because my gnomon was a lot taller. Okay, about 3 feet and a beautiful curve. Look at that. Just practice. It's like, oh, this is neat. We're just going to continue on. We have about 60 slides to look at. And I might call some of you in that I know are here So keep your mics open if you see your name and your initials. Let's go over to this one on the right first. This is from the United Kingdom. We have two ladies, two families up there that are really good markers. And this came in May 18th and 19th. And just trying something, just trying something. And this is done with rocks. All right. Look at, you can see the curve. Now, we don't recommend using rocks, when you're going to try to find that straight line, but they were just looking to see. All right. Angie from the United Kingdom. Angie, I'm going to call you in a little bit later with another one closer to September. But Angie was marking up there in the United Kingdom, and look at, she's got a beautiful curve. And you can see it kind of drags out on the one side. In the northern places, at least, we found this drag, okay? It'll be a curve, it'll drag that way or drag this way, but you'll see that. Just keep watching for that. So just use your imagination while you're practicing. Now's a good time to practice. Find your sweet spot. Where can you, what did I do here? Just a second. Get rid of that. Where can you find your spot that is not going to be having shadows from roofs and trees and whatnot come in? This is coming from Kansas. This was June the 5th. First time marking again from Kansas, and you can see just trying something, okay? Didn't know really what to do, but just getting out there and trying. This is important. The first time you do this, you will probably have some pretty funny marks like this, okay? But that's okay because you're going to learn what's happening, all right? So just start marking and you'll see that curve, even if you don't quite have it right. Or sometimes you'll bump the board and it's like, oh man, but just keep marking anyway, and you'll start to see what's happening. So the next time that it's going to be Charlene, she's from Kansas, we're going to see some things that she did later on, and you're going to see how her marking just really improved because she kept trying, okay? And another thing, do you see she was making notes here? She had her time with her dot, and she's got her nail. She's telling me it's 1.25 inches tall. She's got a note down here at 6:50 a.m. that her mark was off the paper. So she realized my paper's not long enough. She learned that. And then here she's got 4 o'clock. It was cloudy. She couldn't mark. If you've got clouds, if the sun's behind clouds, you won't get a mark. You won't get a shadow. So she was putting notes on her marking board that was letting us know information, letting her know information as well. But all this data, okay, we're going to talk about this near the end. All this data is really important. And she had her data down here. She said she was testing June the 4th. Really, really important. Good data. That's what tells us what's happening. Get your directions on there. North, east, south, and west. That's really important as well. So just keep working at it. Now, this shadow marking project is from June the 10th. This is from Maryland, submitted by the Gonzalez family. This was their second try, actually. The first try was actually very, very good, but they decided to try it again. And look at this by June. Look at that beautiful, beautiful curve. They've got their dates, their times, okay? They gave us solar noon up here. We'll tell you how to find that out. Solar noon is really important. So they got their solar noon there at 106, around 106. They didn't mark right at 106, 115, but they've got a lot of data here, okay? And what's the note? 6 o'clock shadow was prohibited by a tree shadow. So what did they say? We have to relocate our setup. Now they know they've got to go find a different spot. And again, north, east, south, and west were put on the data. Very, very nice. This is some data that was submitted on June the 11th, the very next day, by Cecil in Delaware. Cecil, are you there, Cecil? Can you open your mic and come on in and just tell us a little bit how your first, I think this is your first marking if you're there, Cecil?
Yes. Yeah, the gnome right here is actually a threaded rod. and you can adjust it up and down, and it's flat. I found out after this that you want to make it a little more pointy, but I found out later you don't want it a super fine point because you have a hard time seeing the end of the shadow. So you want to have a little flat area on it to kind of give you a pinpoint definite end of that shadow.
Mm-hmm.
And all I did was I just used little short push pins, and I put a screw anchor over here on one side and screw anchor on the other, and just strung a piece of line across it, and you get a chance to see it.
Mm-hmm.
And what I like about doing it this way is you don't have another line the next day. You just take that string off, and then you have the string for the next day, and then keep the push pins on there, and you can have an array of different colors, which I now have. I've got about 20 different colors that I can put on there.
Yes, excellent. And was this your first time, Cecil?
Yes, it was.
Yeah, and you can see he's really got it. Okay, he's got numbers here. 1, 2. He had a plan. 1, 2, 3. He's got all these numbers to 17. He had to put 12 and 14, 16 over on the other side because it gets really tight in there. But look at the data. Look at his notebook data. He's got all his numbers of his marks. He's got the time that he did the marking, AM and PM. Lot 22 data points. Excellent. He gave me this data up here, 22 marks, the date, the time, how tall the gnomon was, how long, 22 inches. He measured it, 22 inches from here to here, because sometimes it makes a difference. If your line is only 5 inches long or if it's 50 feet long, it's going to make a difference. And where he's from, where the data was from in Delaware, and his initials, so that we knew. Very good. That he got a whole lot better, and he learned a lot. He learned a lot about this, this screw. He can adjust it. He can make it taller or shorter, whatever he wants. But anyway, really good data. Only June 11th, just since May. Such good data coming in. Okay, this is from California. This lady, Ellie, she was really excited about this as well. She just started to learn about covenant calendar. She got excited. Her father ran an observatory. She knew a lot about the stars and the constellations. She said if her father was alive, he would be so excited to see this happening. But this is her first try. She didn't really know what was happening, and so she just got out there and started to try, and she started at 12:30 solar noon. She didn't realize she had to start sooner, but she lost or didn't have the shadows because she had trees or fences or something in the way. But you know what? That's how you learn. Just go pick a spot, start somewhere, just start somewhere. But you can see she had a little bit of a curve even at that, and it went way over to there. You'll find these evening and morning shadows are really spread apart, okay? As soon as you get closer to the solar noon, they get really tight together. We're going to see a lot of marking in that as well. So, Ellie, first try, really good. We're now back to Missouri. We had some good marking coming out of Missouri as well. This is June the 13th, and you can see the curve, right? Look at the shadow right there, and the person there taking a snapshot right on the money, right on the dot there. Two really good submissions. This individual was marking on a board and also marking with a taller gnomon out in the grass, putting big whatever they've got there in the ground, and you can see they could see the curve way up to there. Okay, they could see the curve by just standing back and looking. Little flags, if you have little flags or big popsicle sticks or whatever, just try something right now to see if you can find your spot. So Missouri was well in on the program as well. This is really interesting. We are really, really excited about Queensland. This was, I think, the first submission from Susanna in Queensland, right here. She really had her board set up well. And now I think that their curve is the other way in the southern part of the hemisphere. Okay, I do believe that it is, but anyway, you can see she's got her marks there. She's got them numbered. She gave me her data information here. She put a sheet of paper and she took a picture. We can zoom into that and hopefully read it if it's not too pixely. But she's from this part of Queensland. It's called the Sunshine Coast. And she has already told us that she's going to be diligently marking this March along with our friends over in New Zealand. So really good data submitted by Australia. This is Malaysia. On June the 2nd, Po Chai was getting ready. He sent me a picture. He said, there you go. I'm getting ready. Okay. He's getting ready to mark the shadow. So we like to see that as well, to see people that were sending us data to say, like, I am doing something. I really, really am. That's important too. Okay, let's continue on because we have quite a few slides to get through. This is from Virginia. This lady, she was busy marking, as you can see. She was marking out here in a field. She also had something on a picnic table or whatever. She was trying to show the data. But you can see, just looking at it, you can see the curve. What is the date? It's June the 14th. She's got all her data here, June the 14th. And also she sent some good marking here. Oh, I wonder who told her what to do. Okay, good shadow marking data there. You'll find that when you take notes and you write things down that you're going to learn a whole lot. And you'll be glad that you have that notebook because by the next day you won't remember. So have a notebook. We've got quite a few people that were taking notes and sending us their notes. Okay, thank you, Virginia. Well, you know, our two little boys say, we think if you track the shadow a little more often, you just might discover something that you never knew existed. And that was the fun part of it. When we tracked a little bit more often, we were learning as we went along the way. And like today's March the 2nd, and we're expecting the shadow around the 19th or the 20th. So we're really down to 17 days. Well, our family from Maryland is back. Remember, I think they were on June the 10th the first time. Their data this time is June the 15th. I wonder if you remember what their curve looked like the last time. I wonder if you remember, because the closer that we get to the summer solstice, the bigger this curve's going to be, the tighter. It's going to be like a beautiful, beautiful smile in this case, okay? But it's now really going to have a beautiful curve. What is the summer solstice? Around June the 21st. So really, really close. Please watch these curves as we go through the months because we're getting close to the summer solstice now. All right, I did some marking as well, close to the summer solstice. When I could get out there. This was June the 16th. Okay, so this is about 5 days away from the summer solstice. I had two markings going on this board at the same time, but I had big clouds that day, huge clouds in the sky. If this is a picture of my site, and right down here in this white circle is where my marking board was. And I looked up into those clouds. When I came out the door, I went, oh my goodness, I'm not going to have a shadow. But do you know, from the time I walked from my back door to this marking table, which took about 10 or 15 seconds, the clouds moved. Do you know what? They moved just enough time, about 5 to 10 seconds for me to get the mark, and the cloud had moved back. That happened, I think I put that on here, right around in here, 11 and 12 and 1, 3 times in a row. I'd had to wait just a few seconds for the clouds to part. A little bit later, I had to wait 10 minutes, but I just said, yoo-hoo, you have to part the clouds for me, and he did 3 times in a row. So beautiful curve there, just a wonderful curve. That was the one marker. That was a marker that was 3.5 inches. I had another mark on the same board, and this gnomon is about twice as tall, about 7 inches tall. Okay, so 6.25 it looks like I have here, but it was taller, and you can see still another beautiful curve. I was marking them both at the same time. You can do this. You can have 2 or 3 different sizes of gnomons on your same board. While you're marking, try different sizes. You might find, that size runs off the board. It runs off too quick. I need to have something shorter. That's what you will understand. And again, yeah, we're just asking you to part those clouds for everybody, every CC member that is marking. Okay, this is from Michigan. This is submitted by Rebecca. She's really exciting. I'm excited about marking. I think this is one of her first ones after she marked for the shadow in March. She had good markings, good data, but she's still practicing. And you can see here, this is June the 19th. We're getting really, really close now to the summer solstice. But you can see what she's done. She's put arrows where her marks are because she didn't want to cover up her marks. So she put arrows, but you can see what happened. All right. And then this big drag here. Oh, yeah. Beautiful markings. All right. We really appreciate the markers in Michigan. There's really good markers happening up there. Okay, we're back to Kansas. This is Charlene in Kansas. She's marking around June the 20th. Do you remember what her first submission looked like? Okay, she's submitting this now 15 days after her first attempt. And this time she's got really good data. Just look at that. Do any of you remember what it looked like the first time? She's got her picture, she's got the shadow, and there she marked it. And you got to be fast, okay, because that sun is going to move. If you take too much time, that shadow is going to be way over here. It's not going to be at your mark. So you've got to have your camera ready, everything ready to go, okay? And of course, the camera's got the time on it. But look at the improvement that she has had in just 15 days by just practicing. Really, really neat. Not hard, lots of fun. It's like, I can do this. This is from Jess in New York. Jess caught on to this really quickly. I want to ask each one of you to be here next week because Jess is going to do a very special presentation on our part 3. But this is taken from a little video or a little slideshow that she did. But she was marking. Now she's got day 1 is green. She's got day 2 was yellow. She was using different colors. And you can see day 3 must have been red. All right, so she's got a plan going on here. And she actually did this on the computer. She actually put these whites, she did this on the computer. Okay, she did all this wonderful, wonderful marking. Her north, east, south, and west right here. And then she's showing you day 2. Now don't forget, this is, what was her date? June the 20th. This is a day before the solstice. Got a really nice curve there. She's zeroing in to show you, just what's happening. When you get around, probably from 10 to 2 o'clock, these marks get really close together. So you might not want to use really big, thumbtacks. You might want to use something smaller. And you can see she's had to kind of put them in at different angles because they were really tight together. But she experimented with several data options. She learned so much. And she also put together a really nice little PowerPoint video to share with others. And it appears to me she's enjoying this project and she's getting ready for serious marking in September. So this is June. This is June the 20th. There's still 3 months to go until basically we look for the September straight line shadows. So she's got some good practice in. And you can get hooked on this, by the way. Okay, Malaysia. Do you remember that we saw Po Chai said that he had his nail? He had his nail all ready to go. Well, he sent us some data. This is actually June the 21st. It would be the summer solstice of 2023. You can see there was his nail. He had his paper on top of his nail. And you know what, everyone? It might look kind of scratchy and messy, but he still got you can still see the curve, all right? And on this one, this is the 22nd of June. He marked on the 22nd. First time marking, and he's understanding. Yeah. So you know what? He knows that when he marks a straight line, he's going to have to be just a little more careful, okay? But for first try, you don't need to be fancy. You don't need a fancy sundial to mark the shadow. You can just do it with your paper, your fine tip pen, your gnomon, and just find that sweet spot. So Do you have to be fancy and have a fancy sundial? The answer is no, just get out there and mark. It doesn't matter, just go and do it. You will learn what you need to do. So from Malaysia, we really appreciate it because Po Chai is about 10 kilometers from the equator. We are really anxious to see anything he submits this coming March. It didn't work too good last September. They had too many monsoons. Well, our little boys are back. We think it should be easy to track the shadow and watch the shadow flip after the straight line. We just talked to Dubai this morning. They are anxious. They just told us today that they are planning to mark the shadow, but they want to do more than watch just for the straight line. They want to see it flip. They want to see the line flip on the day after or 2 days after. So they're getting ready to mark. I think we do have a demonstration from them in this treat today. Okay, this is from Montana. This is from Diane. Diane, if you're not too shy and you want to open your mic, you open it up and talk to us. You just let me know. But this is from June 20 to the 21st. She was marking around the solstice. Okay, 2.5-inch gnomon. She's got. She gave me her high noon, and look at all these points. Okay, really good. Now she drew her line by hand. We just recommend instead of drawing a line by hand, just take your string, a thread, not a piece of yarn, okay? Just a thread and just thread it here and just come all the way around. Don't wrap it around each of these, but just pull it. And then you can attach it here and you'll see it. You take a picture of that too, but look at all this beautiful data that she sent to us. What did she say here? Day 1, morning times were off by 5 minutes. Did not realize that until a certain time, and she realized something wasn't straight. She said, I forgot, I always keep my watch 5 minutes fast. So I changed last night and got everything right with the timing. It doesn't matter if your watch is 5 minutes fast. That's not going to matter. But she was realizing some things that she wanted to change in her marking. And on the second day, she left me a note. Next, I will use a larger gnomon toward the middle of the surface and a smoother surface. So she wants to move her gnomon this direction and she wants to have her board a little bit smoother. So she's learning just by getting out there and marking of what changes that she's going to make the next time. And I say that's a lot of great learning. Really good marking from Montana. Now, this is back to Wales. Remember, Wales the first time had those rocks and they had that really, really pretty curve. This is on the summer solstice. Rianne and Colin, they wanted to see what was happening on the summer solstice because after this date, this curve is now going to start to do something else. It's going to start to straighten out. But they're not using rocks anymore. You can see that. They've got their fine tip pen out. And I don't know. I think they drew that line. I don't see a string. I'm not sure, but still pretty nice. Okay. They've got all kinds of notes here of what was going on. They gave me lots of shadow data. And we just know that those that have marked the beautiful curve on the day of the solstice, they are now going to see the shadow line move back to the straight line position over the next 3 months. Wonderful participation, good submissions, just with a little bit of practice. We're really happy with Wales, Wales and United Kingdom. Okay, we're back to Michigan. Kim, this is your marking. And Kim, if you want to open up your mic and just talk to us, because you've got 3 days here while you're opening your mic, you just let me know when you're here. She's got June the 19th is her yellow, right? And then June the 20th is red or pink, and June the 21st is green. Go ahead, Kim.
So yeah, I started on the 19th. I've got the yellow pins, and I thought I would just put them all, place them all on the board. It got a little bit crowded. But I think on the last day, on the 21st, I was able to start a little earlier. That's my earliest marking was that, so I just because of cloud coverage maybe in the morning or something, just can affect. sometimes when you get your earliest marking, but and I couldn't complete that on the 21st. I couldn't complete the green pins because we had clouds.
Mm-hmm.
You can just see how it extended down like it builds like a mountain,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
then descent. So it's
But
kind
it looks like on day 2,
of
on the 20th, is the day that you were able to mark the longest. You got to mark till 7:50 at night.
yes.
That's pretty long, okay? So even at that, that's still pretty good because you started at 7:28. That's good. That's good data. Okay, that's still
I
very
did a
good
small
data.
my gnomon height was small. The next time I did it, you'll see that my gnomon height is higher. So
Mm-hmm.
just kind of monkeying around with it. See.
Mm-hmm. Just having fun with it, right? Just practicing and she had time to do this on the 19th, the 20th, and the 21st. Really good practice because you're going to want to do that around the straight line shadow day. So this is the first time shadow marking around the summer solstice for Kim that she's ever done it. Done a really good job. Really appreciate that. Okay, now we're going to go down to Mississippi. This is Brad and Amy down at Mississippi. Brad, I'm going to call you in because I think you're here today. This is, he says, the first day, June 25. And I'm just going to read this little note down here, Brad, and then you come on in. When you have a nice day for marking, why not try different sizes of gnomons all at once, like Brad used a 7-inch, a 5-inch, and a 3-inch. And data markings, he did them every hour from 7 to 5 in the afternoon. And what do we see here, Brad? Can you give us your experience?
Yeah, it definitely gives you quite an arch when you're doing it. You can see where my 7-inch gnomon there in front of you, first one there, yeah, and I've got I think they're 1.5 inch uh,
Nails?
nails, yeah, and I put one every hour, and look at the spread between uh,
Mhm.
uh, 7 p.m. to 8 or 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. There's
Mhm.
quite a spread there.
Mhm.
In fact, it shows over onto the second board where my 5-inch gnomon is.
Mhm.
And the 3-inch gnomon had all of them on the same board. So,
Mhm.
and I could only do my checking on first day because I work. So
Mhm.
I only had the one day each week to try it. So, but
Mhm.
I've taken the time off work this year to do the Tequfah for a week,
Mhm.
and we're going to see how that goes.
Are you going to use the same 3 boards?
Yes.
Yes. And it was a good thing, Brad, that you put them all together because
Yeah.
the 7-inch gnomon, it needed to go into that second board and even the 5-inch. How wide were these? Is this 6 inches or 8 inches?
No, that's a 2 by 12.
2 by 12. Okay.
Yeah.
So,
And I've got them 6
12
foot
inch.
long.
Okay, so 6 foot long was definitely long enough, but when you're using a 5-inch or a 7-inch Noma, 12 inches is not wide enough. So Brad learned that. But if he's using a 3-inch, he can get it on a 12-inch. Okay, so that we didn't know that. So he was really happy. I remember when he told me, I'm sure glad I put those boards all together because otherwise he would have run off and he wouldn't
Yep.
have got this marking here, this last marking here. It would have been on it, it would have been off. Okay.
Yep.
So we all learned something from that. Thank you, Brad. I think we have another one coming up from you. Thank you so much, Brad. This is from Dubai. This is the group in Dubai. They were excited. They were just, oh, the data that they sent to me, I could only give you one picture here, but they had a really good area. They got together, they figured it out, and at the end, guess what they said? Marking the shadow was easier than they thought and lots of fun. And just watch for this enthusiastic group to be back again soon with another group project. They told us today we are ready to go. Wonderful data that they had given to us, everything just wonderful. It doesn't take a lot of time. It just really helps us out a lot. and you can see, you can see the curve. All right. So we just thank Dubai. They're very, very important in this world project as well because of their location. Okay, let's keep going. Oh, Brad, we're back to you. Brad was marking the next week. This is July 2. And Brad, do you want to say anything about this particular submission that you gave to me?
Well, I started at a different, made my picture at a different angle this time,
Yeah.
but I got the solar noon in there and started out just like I had the Sunday before that, and I think I was even mowing my lawn, and I had to get off the mower to go over and mark it each hour. So
Okay. And Brad, can you tell us if you're marking solar noon, what happens when you have your solar noon mark? What happens with that curve after that?
it changes the different direction.
That's right. So your solar noon, I'm not sure, it's going to be around in here somewhere so you can see everyone. He's marking, 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 and actually it goes this direction. Okay. No, it doesn't. No, that's east, okay? It's going to
Yeah.
start here. All right. And then once you get to solar noon, it's going to start going the other way when the sun is going down from the high noon position. Okay, well, we're going to see Brad back. He's taking off a whole week to mark this time. This is another submission from Missouri, from Esther. She really got excited. This is July the 3rd, and you're going to see this again. She's going to give us another one with comparing two dates, but this is July the 3rd. She's been collecting data and practicing, and just there you go. Just a beautiful curve. So easy. And she gave me good data. She just wrote it on a piece of paper and took a picture of it. And that's all we need. Okay. So Esther from Missouri submitted practice data last week. Last week when this happened last year. And just see, the practice makes perfect. It happens every single time. And she was getting ready to mark the September shadow as well. Okay, we're off to Michigan. This is Michigan this time. Kim, it's you. Do you want to come back in?
Yeah, well, I started at, let's see, this is July, 4th of July. Yeah.
Mhm.
I started at 7:42, right at the dot. My string is hanging off, so don't look at that. That's just hanging down, but that's where my earliest mark was, and it climbed. Next time I'm going to sit outside with a cup of coffee or whatever, sit outside and mark every, 5 minutes or something, just to get more points between that. Look at within 20 minutes.
Well, look at this, Kim. 7 o'clock is when you started, and you did one at 8 o'clock. This is what happens in the morning. In the evening, you have a very long span. This is where you want to have your cup of coffee, right?
Yes.
And you had 8 o'clock, and then you had 8:21 at this one. So in 21 minutes, it shortened up quite a bit.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Kim.
Nope. Yeah, I think I had a taller gnomon. Oh, not that much taller. Only, yeah, 2.25 inches. But yeah, just really always gets tight up there
Yeah,
near solar noon.
yeah.
But
But
yeah.
that's where you're going to see your curve. And that's where you see it coming up, and then solar noon is going to start going down.
Going
And
down.
I don't know what, 2 something or whatever, 3 maybe, but look at the distance. She might not have been able to mark. She might have had an appointment or something, but the distance will drag out very quickly. And it's okay, everyone, to have your string hanging off the side, but she just tied it there, and she just followed those little marking pins all the way. It's okay to have that string there, okay?
Stops right there at 7:42, and the string just drags. So
Yes.
yeah, don't look at that string there.
Yeah, that's not part of the marking, but it's just that's where she tied it off. Very, very good. July the 4th. Okay, Tim. This is Tim's. Tim was doing something very interesting there in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. And I kept bugging him. I said, Tim, you got to do some marking, So he got out there. Tim, can you tell us what was happening with your marking on July the 5th? Is he there?
I got to get my mic working. Yeah. Uh, well, it was a beautiful day, and I put up a great big gnome there. It's 3 feet, and I didn't know how to mark it out, so I grabbed a bunch of rocks and I got a spray can of paint and marked him out. And there that you got the arrow there at 6:05 a.m. So that was a really good first marking. Then there's quite a distance to the 7:15 a.m. marking. Quite a bit of difference actually, and it moves very quickly in that area. Then they've got the further marks come along there, and it's just a great big huge curve. It's actually really neat to watch, see it form. But then that 4:15 long come a thunderstorm, and that was the end of my marking. But it was really good though. It just shows how the things work in the sky. It's a real eye opener when you do this, especially the first time. I've been doing it for a few years now, and but the first time you do it, it's a real eye opener. And you get other people that are maybe walking by, and they'll, "What are you doing?" And you tell them, and well, you get all kinds of different reactions.
Oh, okay. So Tim, you had a 3-foot gnomon here. How long was this line? Can you give us an estimate?
40 feet. Yeah, it was about 40 feet.
Yeah, 40 feet. It was very
Yeah.
long. Okay, so you have to have a big spot to mark if you're going to do it that way. But Tim, are you going to do this for the straight line? Are you going to use rocks and spray paint again?
Yep.
Okay, we want to see that data up there from Calgary, Alberta, Canada. All right. Okay, this is Uganda. This is from Henry. I don't know if Henry is here or not. He might not be here anymore because it's late over in Africa. But this was his first try from Uganda, right there. Dan Collins is from Uganda as well. This was his first try. He's getting started, and you can kind of see the curve, but uh-oh, something happened here. Oh, what happened? Somebody might have bumped his board when he wasn't looking, but he did send me the data, and you know what? This is good practice because you learn, oh, I can't have that board bumped. I got to secure it. An animal coming along isn't going to bump it and do something to it. But really nice to see submission coming in from Africa. They are important because the equator is right around in here. All right. They're quite close to the equator. It might be more than 10 kilometers, but they're still closer than a lot of the rest of us. So we really thank Henry in Uganda. That was July the 16th. You can still see a curve. Okay, let's move on we're back to Michigan. This is Rebecca. I don't know if Rebecca is with us today. Kim, if she's not here, can you pop in and speak for Rebecca?
Yep.
July the 18th.
July the 18th. I know she has fun with this. She loves it because she show me, what'd you do? Did you do it? I did it. So we sort of go back and forth. But yes, looks like she had 18 marks, 12. She got her first mark and went all the way to almost 5 minutes before 8 at night.
Mm-hmm.
And she had a 2 3/4 inch gnomon right there, and she used her push pins. She made her points. We were just discussing last week when she was over here for Shabbat that yes, we have to make sure we do very fine point mark on our board, fine tip marker point, and then she put the push pins in. So
yeah, really good marking, and she loves it. And can you see these curves? You can see as our markers are practicing, their data is just beautiful. There's nothing wrong with this at all. There was something I was going to say. Oh yes, it is this. Even though we have north, east, south, and west on this board, your first shadow is going to be on the west side, because as the sun comes up from the east, it's going to cast the shadow to the west. Your first marking is going to be on the west side, and then as you go through the rest of the day, your last mark will be on the east side. And that might be a surprise to some people too, but that's the way it works. Okay, let's go on to Kim. This is yours, Kim. This is a July 19th.
Oh, mine again. Yes,
yeah.
Yep, I did this one, and I actually, instead of points, I used a little arrow, I remember watching some of Nathaniel's videos on how he did it, and I thought I'm going to try an arrow to mark the tip of that shadow in the nail in the sun. But I think I took a picture on my camera and then I drew a line on my photo. You know how you can edit your photos, and that's what I did. But yeah.
So that was June the 19th, and we've already seen the other markings that you did with the 3 days in a row, and I'm just going to bring that up next just as a comparison
Yes,
of what
this is
happened
the
on the
first.
next 2 days, just so
Yes.
you can see the difference in just marking 3 days in a row. Okay, we've seen this one before, but anyway, it just makes a difference. It's so much fun. Thank you, Kim. I know you're marking with Becky with us this March. We'll be looking for your data. First time shadow marking around the summer solstice. It was exciting. All right, we're going back to Africa. This is Dan in Tembe area. This is very close to the equator. There's even one of these signs there that says the equator. This was his first time marking, and he said it was so much fun. I will mark next week. It is a great experience. He was using a pencil. You know how tall a pencil is. And he's got his marks here. Okay, they're a little bit on the large size, but doesn't matter. You're going to see that curve anyway. It's when you're marking the straight line that you want to have a very fine tipped pen. Solar noon, okay, that's always important. He gave all his information, the time zone, etc. So you get the idea right. Some wonderful marking. He even sent me a picture of a sunset there where he lives. Beautiful picture. Dan is excited. He's already sent us data here about 10 days ago. He is really excited. Over here is another marking. This one is for July the 21st. Okay, you'll see it's part of this one over here, July the 21st, 2 days in a row. Really good, really good. Okay, where are we off to next? We've got Covenant Calendar people all over the place. Oh, it's Tim. Tim is back. Tim, you're back with your July 23rd. Any comments? With your mic on.
I'll get it working here. July 23. Well, I got the same gnomon. And yeah, I reused the same rocks. I stored them aside. I had them here in the yard. It wasn't a place where it was a problem.
What I remember about this is you sent me a video and you were walking and showing me pictures. That's where this came, pictures of all these rocks. And I think you must have walked 50 feet because 6:16 a.m. is way up here. I couldn't even get it, so it's like, it's big.
Yeah,
Anyway,
it's a long one.
yeah, and the last two markings were below this. I tried to put a curve in here to show it, but he was marking, he was walking it out. So if you've got the space to do, a great big one, you'll see it. If you just have a little spot in your backyard where you can only get like a 10-inch line, you will see what's happening. Okay, we're going back to California. Thank you so much, Tim and Kim. We're back in California with Ellie. Maybe you remember how she was marking that first time. You remember she had that stick in the ground with rocks and she didn't get started on time. There was shadows in the way. Look what's happened. She's fine tuning it and she found these beautiful rocks, or whatever you want to call them, marbles, flat marbles. But she said, you know what? The wind tipped my board as it was not secured well. And at 2 a.m., some of her rocks fell off. So she had to put them back on, but she was marking with rocks. So here she's got her name and the date. This is July the 26th. Again, she's really excited. California City, really excited about marking. She had her solar noon, okay, and she's saying much better success on the second try. Practice pays off, and it always does. Okay, we're leaving California. We're on our way down to New Zealand. This is Asher. He was 8 years old last year, and he's still 8 years old. Is there somebody there from New Zealand, Asher, or his daddy, Warren, that wants to say something about this submission?
Shabbat Shalom.
Oh, there you are,
Hi,
Asher.
Charlene.
Go ahead. It's all yours. It's your slide.
Okay, so we only had the positioning we had too many obstructions. So it was I don't know where I got the idea from, but I thought, well, I can try use this Asher's bedroom because it gave us the only light source with the least obstruction. But the only obstacle we still have is as soon as we get, say, end of day or the early morning, we only have sunlight once the sun sort of enters through the room. So
Mhm.
later in the day, we need to check if the straight line doesn't go into a curve to make sure that's a perfectly accurate straight line. Well, we don't always get that. So like for this year, for when we do the marking, I'm going to have to be checking that I don't have two identical straight lines they are after each other, if I'm making any sense.
Mhm. Yes.
So yeah, because I got a straight line thinking that was a Tequfah, and I think it was just the next day that it was perfect straight line, and I wouldn't have picked it up. So I think that was one thing we did learn
Mhm.
in the exercise.
I have
And
another slide after this, another one that you're going to want to speak to, but this is the first try. This is the first practice, and they're ready to try again. So really good submission. They found out that they need to do some adjustments, whatnot. So you need those practices to know what you have to do. So Asher, I'm going to show you the next slide is also yours. The next one is going to be from August 1, so just a few days after July 27th. And they sent me this picture here. Okay, it turned out dark, but sometimes that happens. Okay, but you could tell that they're sharp gnomon and they were marking right there. So Asher and Daddy Warren on the second practice, look what we see. A beautiful curve here. We can see it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
fun, wasn't it?
It was
Yeah,
exciting.
yeah. But they did make a note. There was some cloud cover around 11 and 12 to 14 p.m. Okay. So they made some notes that when you have clouds, you can't mark. There's no way you can mark. You just have to wait till the next time. But even so, even though that mark was missing, you can still see the curve. Asher, we're looking forward to your submission. New Zealand and Australia are really super important this year. We're going to be showing that a little bit later on. And now we're back to Sue in Queensland on the Sunshine Coast. She sent in another shadow marking for August the 10th. See, she's got her paper. She knows what she's doing, giving all her data. We're so excited for any data from the South Pacific for the fall equinox, but it didn't happen last year. But anything that comes in, it's always a good learning experience when we share it together as a team. All right, we're going to leave Australia and we're going back up to Uganda. This is back to Dan. This is on August the 10th, okay, in Uganda, close to that equator. And you can see he's still doing some good marking here, right? Still doing some good marking. So he knows that, things are going to work out. He gave me a little note that said he discovered that the morning and the evening shadows are much longer and he has to adjust the size of his paper. Remember we said that? Those morning and evening shadows on Brad's board, it went right off the board, okay? So he knows what he has to do to be totally ready to mark the next set of shadows. So we thank Dan and we appreciate every submission from Africa. Got some good markers over there. Okay, we're back to Missouri. This is August the 17th. This is another person in Missouri that was practicing for the very first time and actually doing some pretty good marking, but they found that their first mark, they actually put it on the board, but it was actually way off the board. So they put it on the board that it was off the board. They had to wait. Their board was too short. They had to wait till the shadow came on the board and then they could find their mark. You can still see August 17th, there is a curve there. So you'll find out really quick if your board is too narrow or too short, or if your gnomon's not in the right place. You will figure that out really quick, just with some practice. Okay. This is the one that I was telling you about from Missouri. The other marker from Missouri, remember I told you there was going to be a yellow line. The yellow line is July the 3rd, and now they're comparing August the 19th. Okay, you can see that that curve is starting to straighten out now. Okay, July the 3rd, that's just after the summer solstice, so it's a pretty tight curve. Here by August the 19th, what, 3 weeks later, it's starting to already flatten out. Lots of good data. Okay, just write it down, take a picture. And anyway, comparing two sets of data markings about 6 weeks apart or so. Really good. Middleton, Missouri. These are really special spots. Brad, I'm bringing you back, Brad. Is there anything else that you want to say to us? This is for September the 17th. We're getting closer now to the fall straight line marking. And Brad, what do you want to tell us about your marking this time?
Well, this time it was I didn't take my picture until after the sun had gone down. So I put all the boards in my garage, and I took string and put through all the nails, and you could say it's getting pretty close to being straight.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. If you can remember what Brad had the other two, was quite a curve. But this time, Brad, your three are staying on their own board. They're not wandering on to another board.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, we didn't know, but we did learn when you're pulling your thread. Now, this is a string. We're suggesting just a thread, maybe like a seamstress thread. Don't wrap it around each of your pins or nails. I did the same thing. It would be better just to start with the first one, tie it, and then just pull your string by the high noon to the other one, and then just tie it. Just let it lay there right next. Because
My nails weren't necessarily all straight.
Yes,
Hey,
exactly.
Charlene, can I interject, Charlene?
Yes, please do.
It's actually helpful if you guys pull your string only from the first mark of the day to the last mark of the day, and don't even let it hang or drape over the other marks. Because what we're looking at is that string that you're pulling is defining the straight line between your first mark of the day and your last mark of the day.
Mm-hmm.
So then when you pull the string only between those two marks, then you can see if the other marks at midday are touching the string yet. If they're not touching the string yet, then it's not straight yet.
Mm-hmm.
Good point. Good
Mhm.
point. Yeah.
Yeah, and that was something we kind of learned. Like a lot of us didn't know that. So, doing these things and submitting them to Nathaniel, he says, "Oh yeah, let's not do that," And so a lot of us learned, from what Brad had submitted here. Okay, do you notice this? It's easy, and we need one that says it's fun. Okay, we're coming up close now to the September straight line shadow. I had a submission from Nathan in Ohio. This was the 21st, okay? We were expecting the straight line shadow to be on the 23rd. He sent me for the 21st. I'm sorry, it's so dark. This is the best I could do. But he did pull a string exactly the way Nathaniel said. Start it here and just pull it, past your solar noon to the last one. But you can see his marks right here. They're not on the string. Okay, they're a little bit away. So in 2 more days, or he's going to have to check. I didn't get anything more than just this one piece of data, but if he would have done it on the 22nd and the 23rd and maybe the 24th, he would have seen something if he would have taken a picture. So Angie, if Angie is still there, I would like to bring Angie in because she was marking on the 21st and the 22nd, and she's got her notes here. Everyone,
They're very scruffy, aren't they?
it doesn't matter if they're scribbly. These notes are so important, and I know Angie is glad she's got her notebook, and I bet she's saving it. Angie, can you just kind of talk about your red and green marks if you can remember, and I'll follow you.
Right. Okay. So,
You had a 4.5-inch gnomon with the red, it looks like, and a 4-inch with the green marks. Is that what it's saying?
yes. And I changed the gnomon from the first time I did it to a cork with a bit of pen inside. So I wasn't really happy with that gnomon at all, but I
Yeah.
felt I had to get some readings together. And the weather, I remember, was raining quite a lot, so I had to use the waterproof pen and the white tablecloth that I've got. And I think I did see this. I think that the straight line was the green one on the 20. Was it the 22nd?
On the
Oh no, the 21st. It was the straight one.
Yeah. Well, now your marks are kind of big, okay? And so I'm not sure, Nathaniel is the one that assesses this, but I think what you're going to do the next time is just a really fine pen. And
Yes.
yeah. So that's how we learn, right? Because we've been practicing last year for this big event in March. We all said this is the big one, so we needed to practice. So you learned a lot, Angie, and we learned a lot from you. We learned a lot. And just like you had to change your gnomon size, I had to do the same thing. We're going to look at that here in a little bit. But this is important, everyone. Just those notes are so important. You will be glad that you kept the notes. Doesn't matter, they're scribbly. Okay. All right. We think, we think, depending on where you live in this world, that shadow may be seen on either September 22 or September 23, especially for those in North America. So just on September 23rd, we did get some data. I'm just putting a little bit of data here right now. This is the March line. Remember, we said there was a split. This is the Yahuwah's international date line right here, kind of where it was split in March. But this is March 23. So we've got data in these blue for March the 23rd. Okay, just a little bit to look at there from West Virginia, Kansas, and Montana. Just giving you an idea that they're all blue on either side of this marker. So what do you think is happening? Well, let's just keep going. Bringing Charlene back from Kansas. She sent me some data as well. I didn't get it on time to show this to Covenant Calendar. It got sent to me later. But anyway, this is September 21st, Thursday. And do you remember her first set of data? It was like she was just practicing, but she's getting pretty good now. So she's, I think, pulled a thread here or drawn a line. I'm not exactly sure. I don't know. But this is her gnomon. It's a 1 1/4-inch nail. She's got her high solar noon right there. And she said, oh, there was shade. She couldn't get past 6:26 in the afternoon because she had shade. So practicing the 21st. She said no data on September 26th. She had rain all day. But on September 23rd, this is what she has. Now, this is the important day. She said she moved her board. Something happened. And she put here, did moving the board affect this marking? And she had rain. She said her paper got wet. She's figuring out, you know what? If there's rain, you can't get your paper wet. It could distort your marks. It's something Nathaniel can talk to you about that. And then she's got after 4:21, it was overcast. But look, everyone, look at the line and the marks. Look pretty good, don't they? Looks like a straight line there. All right. Yeah. Anyway, September 23rd. So that was from Charlene in Kansas. She also tried to mark on the 24th, the day after. And look what happened. It looks like a straight line, but some of her marks aren't touching this time. All right. Some of them aren't touching. But the thing is that she's realizing that she needs to do this little, probably tiny pinpoint marks, okay? Not big fat ones, and you have to be, don't be shaky, when you're marking it, but you'll just learn. You'll just learn what to do. She's got, all kinds of data on here. So that was for September 21, 22, 23, and 24. All right. Montana. I don't know if we have anyone here, Johnny and Joan from Montana. They were out in the field. Are either one of you here to talk about this picture with me today? Maybe not.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm just slow on the mute button.
Well, Johnny, you have to explain this picture because that's all I got. I didn't get your other picture that showed, but you can talk to us about that.
Well, we were actually using one of the posts for a gnomon, so it's 4 feet high or 4.5.
Mm-hmm.
And I had mowed that field for hay, so it was short stubble, and we could just use nails in the dirt. And that's just stretching between the ends. So, that's a 60, 70-foot line. And to me, it's easier to tell when you're close because it's so large that any deviation expands.
Yeah. Yeah. Now this was on the 24th. This is after the Teshuva event. Can you tell us what you found? I remember seeing the picture, but I don't have it. When you
Right. Well, there was definitely a bow, and what I do is use a tape measure to measure the offset of the nail and the string at solar noon.
Mm-hmm. So you determined that September 23 was a straight line shadow because of what you saw on the 24th.
As close as we can without actually seeing it on the 23rd. Yes.
Oh, okay. Okay, so you didn't have a mark on the 23rd. You must have had cloud or rain.
Yeah,
like
it was way too much clouds to see.
Yeah. Okay. But still, doing the data the day after, it still told you what was going on. That's the important part.
Right.
Yeah. So there you go. If you have a great big field and you've got 50 feet, and you got a couple people to help you, you can pull that whatever you're pulling. I don't know what you're pulling.
I'm using actually round bale twine.
Binder twine. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we didn't get a lot of marking from people around this time last year, just because there was so much going on. But I do want to show you what was happening with myself up here in British Columbia. We're living around this area, about 10 hours north of Vancouver as the crow flies, way out here. And I was desperately trying to mark. I want to show you what was happening with me because it was something unusual. A September 8th marking was a curve like this, comparing to what I had on June the 16th. You can see quite a difference, okay? Quite a difference. Now, these are in two different places, but it doesn't matter. The curve here on June the 16th, which is really, really close to the solstice, is a beautiful curve. You can see by September 8th, it's really straightening out. And I thought, you know what? I think I know where the straight line's going to go. It's going to go from here to here, but it didn't. It didn't. It took me by surprise. I was really surprised at what I saw happen. So I want to just go through some of these. There's about 15 slides. I want you to see what happened because it was a learning experience. We're back to September 8th on this. My gnomon is 3.5 inches tall. It's a nail. I do want to say it was a rusty nail. I won't use a rusty nail again because the point was going to just shadow out. You're going to see pictures about that as well. But anyway, comparing September 8th to September the 15th, 1 week apart. And look at the difference in the curve. You can see it now. I was using a yarn, all right? And when I submitted this, Nathaniel says, no, don't use yarn, just thread, just thread. Yarn's too thick, okay? So I learned that as well. But you can still see it was a curve 1 week apart, but it is definitely straightening out. Okay, let's go to the next board. Wanted to compare September 21 and September 18th. Let's look at the 18th first. I think we had that the day before, right? Here we are. You can still see the curve is there. Now 18, 19, 20, 3 days later, all right, there, look at that. It is really straightening out, but it wasn't straightening out the way that I thought it would go. It was doing something different. And I didn't realize that that would happen. But now I'm pulling a thread. I'm not using yarn this time. Okay, let's look at the next picture. I kept a notebook as well, and I'm sure glad I did because you can't remember. What happened to me, I was marking in two different places. The marking you saw before was in one area, but I was marking in two different places on opposite sides of a highway. I had to walk across the highway, so two-lane highway with ditches on both sides. But on the 21st, I was still marking on the highway. These are my marks, and then I had to walk across to mark at the boulevard. On the 20th, I was having no problems at all marking on the boulevard, even though I have a lot of trees, it's sort of in a distance a little bit. I had no trouble marking over here on the boulevard until the 21st of September. That's when I got shade. Right there after 2 o'clock, I had shade, and I knew that place was not going to work. I'm going, oh no, what's happened? So I decided that I was going to move my board here from the boulevard. I'm going to do 2 markings on the other side of the highway. So I kept notes about this. What I did is when I came over to do 2 markings on the same board, I kept my 3.5 inch nail, and I also used a 1 1/8 inch pin on the same board. And of course, you can see I marked one first. One of these 855, I couldn't really tell, it was ghosting out, so I did a 902. But the pin, by the time I got things set up, there's my times, my marks and whatnot. And I put a note here at the bottom of my notebook that on the 22nd, it looked like I had a straight line. It looked to me like I had a straight line. Now, I wasn't expecting a straight line until the next day. So I wasn't sure if my eyes were playing tricks on me or not. So I just want to zero in and show you what was going on, because it was a big learning experience on the last 2 days. Everything changed on the last 2 days. My green markings are for September the 21st, and anything that's in pink was on the 22nd. But here's my nail, okay? This is the one with the nail. You can see at 5:42 how I'm ghosting out here with this nail, but I'm noticing that my pins that I had actually put in to mark where this nail was, my pins with a little glass bead were not ghosting out near as much. I had been marking right at the tip. They were not ghosting out as much, and I went, okay, because I got a problem here already with this. Let's just keep going because I have quite a few here I want you to see. And of course, you can always, I'll send this to you if you want to have a look and just look at them. But anyway, this is, of course, the green. I'm marking with a pin. This is higher up on my board. You'll see that a little bit later on. But I was marking along, and I just felt that my mark, even though my tip of my pen was a little bit fatter than it should have been, but my mark was a lot easier to figure out where I was going to mark than with the nail. So I'm going along on the 22nd, and I'm feeling pretty happy that I made a good decision to switch this up. Again, I took this at 5:52 p.m. on September the 22nd, 5:52. I didn't have my camera, but I did pull my line. Okay, I did pull my line, but you can see that when I took my camera, how much the shadow moved right there. So that's why I'm saying have all of your things handy. It would have been nice to have that picture with that shadow right there on that mark. When I pulled my line, I was just thinking, wow, it looks straight to me. And I did just what I was told. I just pulled it from the first mark, which was 9:14. That was as soon as I could get it, past solar noon to the last mark. Okay, that's with the short gnomon. Just keep going. Then I thought I better lay my ruler down and see if it is straight. So I got my ruler out, and it's 10.5 inch line. My other line was about 22 or 28 inches, but this one is about 10.5. And you can see by the time I did this and got my camera in my hand and took a picture, that shadow has already moved a little bit past that point. Okay, that sun really starts to move fast in the evening hours, so you need to be right on it. Just have everything really handy. Next one, just another picture, just not sure. Pulled my thread, it's only a thread. I taped it so nothing would move, taped this end here so nothing would move, and it just looks straight to me. Sent my data to Nathaniel for him to look at. I just want to give you some other views just so that you can see. I took all kinds of directions trying to figure out, I think I'm seeing things, but it just looked like I wasn't seeing things. So this is with the short gnomon. We were wondering last year if a short gnomon is less accurate than a taller one. That was our question last year. We're beginning to think, no, it isn't. It's going to be just as accurate. Maybe don't go much less, much less an eighth and an inch. You don't need a lot of room, okay? But can you see? I thought my shadow was going to be parallel to the edge of my board. This is a plastic plastic signage, like cardboard. I thought that my line was going to be parallel because I had it pretty much east and west, and it didn't. It didn't go parallel. It went on an angle. That was my surprise that I was telling you about. I couldn't believe that it did that. Just another way of looking at things. Is it really true? 6:15. This is when I took it, 6:15. This mark is 6:12 within 3 minutes. Okay, it's moved quite a bit. This is my board with the two on the same board. It's not very wide, maybe about 24 inches wide, but you can see it easily to get 2 on 3. I could have done it as well, but I wasn't sure what was happening because it looked like this one with the nail had a curve in it right here. But I did know that I had some troubles with marking this area, and I didn't take good notes. I might have been a little bit of a cloud or something. I didn't take good notes at that time. But anyway, just to show you that this is really looking straight. This one, I was starting to doubt myself. I wasn't really sure. Taking another look at this taller gnomon. This is a repeat comment from what was happening on September the 21st. These pictures for the data on the 21st, I took these early in the morning of September 22 because I didn't have my camera ready and it was too late to take the picture. So you'll see that the shadow is a morning shadow here. But anyway, as the shadows were so dense for me to get pictures at the end of the 21st, that's why you're going to see these pin shadows from the eastern sun. And on September 21, I did pull a thread around each pin. Okay, I wasn't supposed to do that, but I did, and I'm not supposed to do that, so I learned that as well. I had a yellow pin to mark my solar noon, so I would know which one I'm dealing with because they can get really tight in here. And on the morning of the September 22nd, I pulled a heavier brown. It was actually an embroidery yarn, but just use dressmaking, just ordinary thread. It seems to be the best. Okay. It seemed like I had a problem with this 537. I might have a close-up of that. No, maybe I don't. It seemed like there was a problem with this 537 mark. I might not have been careful on my marking, but that seemed to be a problem. And I just couldn't do much more because my nail was ghosting out too much. I just want to do a close-up. I showed this last week that I'm beginning to think for my area where I live with all the trees that I have, I don't think I have very good success with a tall gnomon because of the ghosting out. Even as far north as what I live is approximately the same as the United Kingdom and Wales. By the time those evening shadows come along, it's ghosting out too much. For those that live further south, even, the closer you get to the equator, I'm thinking that it is not going to ghost out like it does for us that are living in the far north. So I just did this on the computer. I'm just thinking, you know what? I think it might be better to mark if I'm using this pin with a glass bead on the top. Might be better to mark there than at the tip, but I marked at the tip and I really actually did have a pretty straight line. So again, you might want to experiment. You might want to use one pin marking at the base of that and one at the top. Just do some experimenting to see what happens. So the final results for tracking the September Teshuva. Well, the South Pacific had a difficult time to collect data due to all the monsoons that they were having, and all the other reports that came in reported a straight line shadow on September the 23rd, except for my data here in BC. I was getting a straight line on the 22nd. I couldn't mark on the 23rd, had complete cloud all day long. So Nathaniel said that he felt that the line, as shown below, was accurate enough data to be approved. However, then a question came up. That made us wonder if somehow Yahuwah's international dateline had shifted west to time zone -8 from the original mark in March at -6. Now we're beginning to wonder what is happening. Is there something shifting? Okay, trusting that my data was right, we're looking, and we're going to see some more about that. So here's our map. I'm just going to put up a little bit of what we discovered last fall, because we didn't have a lot of South Pacific. But don't forget, our March international dateline from Yahuwah was right about this area, somewhere in here. And on September 23, we had markings from Nathaniel. And who was the other one? Oh, down in here. Oh, can't remember anymore. But Montana. Okay. This area up in here. Anyway, whoever you were, we had markings. So they were now on both sides of this line. On the September 22nd, mine comes in up here. This comes in on the 22nd. It comes in as a straight line on the 22nd. So we're going, wait a second, we're having different dates now for the same straight line shadow. Okay, Nathaniel, I'm going to bring you in for your next 3 slides, if you can open your mic, because he has something really important to show you on these next 3 slides with the Earth. Don't worry about it being squished. That doesn't matter, because we're looking at the equator. And he's going to explain this chart, and I'm going to try to follow him, because there's some very interesting things that are happening. Okay, Nathaniel, it's all yours.
Okay. So yeah, I just wanted to, Charlene put a picture like this together in one of her other presentations, maybe the one she went over last week, but it's just such a good way of doing this to see the progression of the Creator's International Dateline. And so what we got here out to the right is just the timestamps. We're looking at the data that was collected in the spring of 2023, and then the data that was collected in the fall of 2023, using those as 2 established points to the best of what we were able to what we think they were. And then based on that pattern, we're looking at projecting that out to where it might be this spring. And so just a summary again. The solar cycle currently seems to be approximately what modern science is saying. It's somewhere around 365.2-ish days. And so if it was exactly 365, I mean, that is the amount of time needed for the sun to move. Like, obviously the sun is moving east and west over the course of a day, but the solar cycle, 365.2 days, is the amount of time it takes for the sun to move north and south. So like the movement that gives us the seasons, so the apparent movement that we see from Earth. So it, if we're up in America and the sun is down south of the equator, then we're getting winter. And if the sun is north of the equator over our heads or closer to us, it's warmer. We have summer. And so it's that north-south shifting of the sun giving us the seasonal cycle. It takes 365.2 approximately days for that north-south shifting to complete itself. So if we look at the 2023 straight line that we saw, we were thinking it was somewhere right around central United States. So in 365 days, sun would go round and round and round and round, and it would stop right on that vertical line again. But then it would need an extra 0.2 days to complete the north-south shifting that it does to give us the seasons. And so 0.2-ish days, it's about it's like 25% of a day. So that's something like approximately 5 or 6 hours. So we expect, I guess, that you would see the sun, the Creators International dateline progress about 5 to 6 time zones from one year to the next. And we weren't really sure exactly how that was going to happen. We're kind of sitting on the edge of our seat to see what would happen in the fall. But the question was, well, is it going to shift all at once at the end of the year, or does it just kind of gradually shift to the west a little bit every day on all year round until the next year? And I think from what we were seeing this past fall, so again, if you look at the top map, we were looking at central United States, and what I did, those equator lines are centered on the 0 coordinate or the 0 grid line, and so we have another equator line for the fall 2023, and I just drew that diagonal line connecting the two, and that position that she's hovering over right now is approximately where it looks like the sun might have, that is approximately where the first person to see the straight line was in the fall, what it seems.
Yeah, the September 22 one, right, Nathaniel? That's what you're thinking, is that this is the September 20, as good as you can place it on this map.
Right. So, I mean, all we did was just draw a line between those 2 points and extend it to see approximately where it would land for the second half of the year. And it's a couple different ways to check it. I mean, I know it's pretty ballpark to, I think, what Charlene was projecting before. And I mean, if you just look at how wide this map is, like it kind of has 4 chunks between the 180 and the 90 degrees west and the 0 along the bottom grid line there. So, I mean, we can see approximately what 25% of the map is, 20 to 25%. And it looks like it's about correct. I mean, we can't say for sure until we see, but it's looking. So we answered the question. I think we answered the question that the Creators International dateline is shifting progressively over the course of the whole year. So I mean, but the other interesting thing is this year, it looks like it could potentially be somewhere around the man-made international dateline, or perhaps it could make it as far as Australia. We will just have to wait and see what happens. But the interesting thing that would happen if in the 2 different scenarios, we'll talk about them in the next slides, but I don't know that I've ever seen, it's kind of like last year, like I never saw the straight line land on a land mass before, and like there's never been enough people collecting data to kind of make that confirmation, or so fine-tuned. Like it's always just been somewhere out in the ocean and never seen it like that before. But the other interesting thing that might happen this spring that I've never seen before is if it does potentially land near that man-made international dateline, there is the possibility that everyone, or like 98% of everyone on Earth, might actually see the straight line on the same Gregorian date. So we're just gonna have to wait and see. I mean, if because that man-made international dateline is what makes everything all wonky. Like I mean, and it's all crooked, and I don't know if we know anyone who lives like in that zone from the right to the left of that man-made international date line, but that's just a crazy invention of man. But it's what causes things to be messed up. But I mean, everyone should be seeing the straight line in the same 24 to 36 hour period. Like it's all happening back to back. It would happen seamlessly, but for this man-made international date line, it seems like there's some kind of split. But yeah, I think we can go to the next slide, Charlene.
Yeah, before we do, I just wanted to mention that when I compared the angle of this line, because what Nathaniel did is, went with what we had last March, drew the line for what we think we had for September 22, and then just continued the line, and it comes into this area right here. Probably right here would be on this side of the international date line, but we don't know anybody that's living there in the middle of the ocean, but we do have covenant calendar people in New Zealand and Australia. And when I compared that with the slide that had those 12 years with their lines, it was exactly the same angle. And on that slide, we were just comparing, the shifting of the night season on each of those years. And so that was interesting. So let's go to the next slide because it's really interesting to see what's happening on this. I'll try to follow you, Nathaniel.
Okay, so this is just to try and help illustrate an important concept, because I mean, I think it caught some people off guard last year, and it's something we have to kind of think through a little bit, and I'm going to try and help us to think through that here. But so this is last spring. This is what happened last spring. And Charlene, if you go to the column P, like the grid line, So we're looking at that. That red line that she's hovering over, in theory, was the first was the first person who saw the straight line in the year 2023. And so one interesting thing you have to realize is in order for a person at that location to see the straight line, they need a full day of data to see the straight line, right? So they need they're looking at a sunrise position of the sun in order to see that straight line. So actually, if you go to the right, that green line to the right, that is approximately where the sun was rising on the day that the first person saw the straight line. And that is the approximate location of where the sun actually began to cut that straight path across the sky, where it actually began to follow the celestial equator. So that's just something to keep in mind. But so as you progress left, Charlene, you just kind of follow that. I'm just trying to show you the cycle, a luminary day cycle, so a full 24-hour day cycle. You have light and then you have darkness. And even though I'm showing the darkness there, what's really happening is the sun is just continuing its path. So if you just continue down, Charlene, like, I mean, the sun is giving sunlight to everyone on Earth. I just showed you 2 days here just as an example, back to back. But really what's happening is everyone between is getting their sunlight as the sun crosses overhead. So, all right. The important question that people were kind of wondering was, if you go back to that column line P, Charlene, what if I lived on the right side, and what if I lived on the left side of that line? And like, which day is the first day of the year? Which days are the holy days on? And I mean, it's an interesting thing that it's important to think about the difference between our perspective of time and the Creator's perspective of time. And everyone on Earth needs an opportunity to experience their full luminary day cycle. Like, just think of a typical Sabbath day. I mean, let's assume sunrise to sunrise. I mean, it's a full cycle, and everyone needs 24 hours to see it. But I mean, we're all at different places. And I mean, the time, it's not just clock time. I mean, people are, I think in this group anyway, I think for the most part, it's the understanding is a sun or a dawn to dawn day.
Mhm.
And so so now let's look at this graph for a minute, and let's try and imagine how much time actually needs to pass for the creator to be there for this special weekly fellowship with his creation, and to give everyone on earth an opportunity to experience their full luminary day cycle. So I mean, so like I pointed out, you can just ignore the straight line for now and just think of this as a typical Sabbath day, for example. So let's look at that column P. Somebody in the United States is getting ready to have their Sabbath. The sun is rising out to the east in the column R, and that's when their Sabbath day begins.
Mhm.
Okay. Now you go all the way to the end of their cycle, and even if you continue a little more, Charlene, to the person, so the person that was right on the right side of the line that started the day. So if the person was in the western United States, look at the person who's in the eastern United States, all the way in column K. So the people who are living in column K, and I mean, it's sometimes, I mean, it's easier to see things when it's so close like this, it can get a little tricky to understand. But I mean, even if you think about someone who lives on the west coast of Africa, like, I mean, their day did not start yet. Like they're waiting this whole time for their sunrise to come. Like in theory, they're following the person who saw it first in Australia or in central United States. They had their sunrise, they had their day, and as you progress west, everyone is starting to have their day when the sun rises. And so the most extreme scenario is when you make it all the way back to that column K. Yeah. When you make it all the way back to the person who was on the right side of the start of that time, that's the most extreme example. But like they have to wait, in theory, for the sun to get all the way back around for their day to begin. And so, but I mean, again, think about this from the creator's perspective. He's there for all of this, and we're beyond 24 hours at this point, and the day, the Sabbath day, has not begun for the people on the east coast of the United States. And I mean, this is just a phenomenon of the earth that he's created, and man came up with a Gregorian, the Gregorian dates and the international date line, and we have people all the time constantly having their weekly Sabbaths on two different Gregorian dates. But I mean, it's just the interesting thing to notice is back to back like this. If you go back to column K, again, yeah, this person at the end of time, their cycle is just beginning. The luminary day cycle is just beginning for them. And so then you have to keep progressing. They need their full 24-hour cycle, and you've got to go all the way to the following dawn. So that's your line all the way out to that column.
So can I explain it just like this, Nathaniel? Last year, what happened over here, if you can see my cursor, we had Arkansas that had the straight line first. They were here. They were the first ones. And that was on, let me just pick the 19th, okay? That was on the 19th. And so now the sun is progressing this way and this way, but Kim and you and Becky and some others over here, you didn't see your straight line until the 20th, because the sun started over here with the first marking of the straight line over here. But by the time the sun goes through, this is night season here for these people. I would think this is the night season. Their dawn and sunrise doesn't start till here. It would have been nice to be able to put in the midnight day markers, because that might have helped. I don't know. But they had to wait for the sun to come around to them. on their date, which was the 20th, and then you people over here in the eastern part finally got your straight line on the 20th. But it had
Yeah.
started way over here.
Yeah, it's easy to think about when you're thinking about people on like the opposite side of the world or whatever. Like, I mean, 12 hours apart, like someone in the
Mhm.
United States compared to someone in India. Like,
Mhm.
it's easy to see, like, their luminary day isn't going to start until 12 hours later.
Mhm.
But the most extreme example of that is the person who actually lives directly on the right and directly
Mhm.
on the left of the place that time actually began.
Mhm.
But they still need their full luminary cycle to experience it. And so, I mean, that's just the interesting phenomenon. I mean, to realize that the Creator, He is. I mean, we understand Sabbath to be 24 hours for our each respective location. But I mean, every week he's there for the weekly Sabbath for
Mhm.
everybody for actually a 48-hour period,
Mhm.
so that everyone on Earth can experience the full luminary day cycle.
Mhm.
So it's not. So I mean, so back to the people who like might live next to the Creator's international dateline. They were wondering, like, well, should I pick this day or should I pick the day before or the day after? And
Mhm.
the reality is, the Creator's there for he's going to be there for both days. And I would just say, if you happen to live near the international dateline, I think there is we'll get into it in the next slide here, but there's a chance it could potentially make it as far as Australia again this year, and Australia might find itself in the same boat that the United States was in this spring. Potentially, we'll just have to wait and see. But I would just say, I mean, if that happens, just simply do your best to make the confirmation, and with a sundial. And I mean, if you've done your best, go off of what you see from your data. And I mean, if somehow you weren't able to collect data, there were clouds or stuff, I mean, go off of the person who was closest to you, that I mean, you have confidence in. But I mean, don't, if there are people near you, I would fellowship with them if they're like in a time zone to the right or left of you. I mean, I would do what makes sense. I mean, if you've tried your best, you make a decision. But I mean, realize, I mean, the Creator is there for both of those days. It's not like you're missing the day. Like, he's actually there, whether you choose to do it the day before or the day after. So,
And it's
but
definitely
yeah,
not off like 3 days or 3 weeks. It's just so close. They're both together.
right.
Mhm.
So if you want to go to the next slide, Charlene.
Okay.
So I just kind of kept all the line work and the notes in the same location. I shifted the map over to, if you go back to grid line P now, or column line P, yeah. That is just the approximated place, just as a point of talking here, but that it could be that's where it looked like it was projecting based off of the sundial data that was collected last spring and this fall. It looked like it could potentially land almost right on the man-made international dateline. And if it does, that would be cool. Like I said, I'd never seen that before, but it actually potentially be that everyone on Earth actually sees the sign on the straight line on the same Gregorian date. But we're just going to have to wait and see. There are a number of people in Australia in this group, and just others in general, at least 4 or 5 of you, I think, that are going to be collecting sundial data. So I mean, it's no pressure, but I think Asher, you are in the. Am I correct? Is he like in down there?
Yeah,
That's
Auckland. Yep.
that may be the most critical place to watch this spring, I think. So
No
do your
pressure.
best, no pressure. but definitely, if you can, find a spot where you can get those early morning and late evening points, because those are those are the most important ones that show the hook. Well, that's where it kind of hooks the most, is in the early morning and late evening. But anyway, I mean, just do your best, and we'll just see. The other thing I wanted to mention on this note was, like I said, I don't typically pay attention to, I haven't typically paid attention to what modern science is claiming as far as the equinox moment that it claims. But as we were preparing for this presentation and I was getting some things together and we're actually trying to project out this data, I've heard from some people and whatnot, and I just wanted to mention the interesting thing that I'm hearing is a gentleman in Australia by the name of Alan. I think he's on Eastern Australia. I might have got that backwards when I told you the other day, Charlene, but I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure he is the one on Eastern Australia, and I think Damien is the one on Western Australia.
Yeah, he's close to Perth. Yes.
Yeah, but they have been talking about this very topic, and they're trying to prepare themselves for what to do about this topic. Of because what I heard from Alan, I believe, was he was claiming that modern science was claiming that that equinox moment was actually going to split Australia this spring. And that was interesting. I had that in the back of my mind. I wasn't really thinking much about it, but today, as I was preparing for the presentation in Stellarium, that was the last thing I guess I was trying to show you before the thing kind of got away from me. But what I realized today when I was looking at Stellarium, and I actually looked at what is the equinox moment that it has, when does it have the sun crossing the celestial equator? It actually looked like it had the sun crossing the celestial equator when it was okay, I have to think about that. I have to think about that. No, I have to think about that because I took a picture. You mind if I share screen for a moment, Charlene?
Let's do that after we're just about done,
Okay.
and let's do that in the discussion when we end the recording. But I just want to say that if indeed the straight line shadow is seen here in New Zealand, Australia area on March the 19th, and this is the international date line, that means that everyone past this, going west is on March the 19th. Okay, you're all on March the 19th until we all have our 24-hour day across the whole world, from the beginning of the dawn till you get to the ending of the sunset on 24-hour day for both of them. That's 48 hours. I think that's the best way I can describe it. All of us in this 48-hour period will be on March the 19th. Okay, we won't, because of this international date line. That's what Nathaniel is saying is a very interesting year. So, but if indeed our line is wrong, we've projected incorrectly, and it splits Australia, then we're going to have the same scenario where this part, New Zealand and Australia, if it splits Australia and starts here, then they are going to be on the next date. They have to wait all that time till the sun comes back to being a dawn morning for them on the next date. That's the best way I can explain it. But anyway,
I won't share that picture, but I did just recollect like the position where the sun crossed the celestial equator, where it started to cross the celestial equator was splitting Australia. But that doesn't mean that's where the straight line's going to land for a couple of reasons. A, the thing's just computer software, but B, that's the moment it crossed. It looks like it was over Australia, but in order for the straight line to be seen, remember the sun has to be out to the east. So all that to say, for a moment I thought there was an interesting correlation with Stellarium, but now that I'm thinking about it, it was just a coincidence. The sun is going to be like in solar noon position according to Stellarium, splitting Australia, but that's not the thing. Like it would need to be like out east Like, so according to Stellarium, if that was correct, and the sun was hitting the straight path over Australia, then someone in India would be like the first person to see the straight line. So I think all that to say, don't put too much confidence in these programs, these softwares, these projections of men. Like, I think they are missing a couple subtle, amazing things that the creator designed, and it's very important for us to get out there and try and make the confirmations ourselves to understand.
Okay, well, that sounds great. I think we'll keep going, and it sounds to me like the shadow still has the authority. Okay, so we just have a few more slides here. We were not able to finish the world project in 2023 as we had envisioned. We believe the March 2024 straight line shadow holds a key of authority for the next calendar puzzle piece. We're absolutely sure of it. Okay, so here is where all Covenant Calendar members and others, anybody who wants, can be involved in a very important way with the next part of the shadow sign lesson, tracking the shadow. So very, very briefly here, because we're going to go into more detail about this next week with Jess. The next phase of this experiment is very important, but just a very brief overview today. First of all, gather your items. Get your marking board. Get your marker, a fine-tipped marker. Get several colors of markers, several colors of pins or whatever. Make sure your camera is ready to go. Find your location where it isn't going to be shadows from trees or buildings, whatever. Find a location where it's a sweet spot where you can mark the shadow from early in the morning till evening as best as you can. And make sure you secure that board firmly for accuracy so that it doesn't move or an animal can't bump the gnomon or whatever. Make sure, and if it's going to rain, if it's cloudy, cover it up, so it's protected. Practice marking the shadow at least one day a week for the next 2 weeks, if at all possible. Practice is going to just help you so much. As we've looked through, we saw the practices of people and how they got better. They were learning a lot. And send your data to questions at Study the Calendar. And then next, we want to track the shadow from approximately at least by March the 17th to the 21st or the 22nd. If anybody can do it, excuse me, in those days or even longer on each side, just in case you have clouds somewhere in the middle, try to find people in your own time zone to work with, do some teamwork and some buddy work, and send your pictures to us as promptly as you can. So just an example, we'll do more with this next week, but send in your data, as much data as you can. It doesn't take a lot of time, but don't do this. Okay, don't mark this way for the shadow. You don't want to have this kind of a thing going on. You want to be on a board with your fine tip pen and your your gnomons and everything secured very well. You know what to do because we've gone through all of that a lot already today. So email us at covenantcalendar@questions@studythecalendar.com, or you can email Nathaniel. His email is a voiceoftruth@gmail.com. Nathaniel is going to post everything that he can post to keep us all informed on Facebook for CC. There's the link. And he's also going to post on his Facebook group, Solar Tracking Observations, confirming the Creator's times via Genesis 1:14. And he's also going to have a link. This is the link right here for publicly sharing Dropbox folder with all the sundial pictures for truth seekers around the world, for everybody around the world. So if you know what to do with Dropbox, he's going to be doing all of this for everyone around the world. Just wonderful that he's willing to invest so much time and effort because there'll be a lot going on. Covenant Calendar is extending an invitation to everyone that is interested in being part of this very special project. I can tell you there's other ministries. They are excited to see what's happening. They're coming on board. We're all sitting on pins and needles. And if we don't learn our lesson this year, if Yahuwah says, there's one more thing I have to show you, he might stretch it another year. But we want to see what we can find out this year. This is the most important of the whole last year. So thank you, and may Yahuwah bless you. just a lot with much shalom, and have fun as you mark the shadow. You can end the recording.